From the quarry to the stonemason.
This is going to go on Newcastle TAFE.
This is?
Yes.
To the streets, skyline and heart of Sydney. New South Wales is home to 800 sandstone structures built in the 19th and early 20th centuries. They are unique, many crafted from the yellow blocks stonemasons regard as the best in the world.
It's very rare, and as the city develops more and more, it's going to become rarer and rarer to get.
Troy Strati is Managing Director of Bundanoon Sandstone. He is a quarryman. When a developer in Pyrmont struck this yellow stone, worth its weight in gold, he called Troy.
That's what we want to do, is coexist with these developments so that we can rescue this stone and give the developer the time they need to build the building.
Over 6 months, this underground treasure has been harvested, forming a yellow block road, a pathway to preserving our most iconic buildings, including St Mary's Cathedral overlooking Hyde Park.
What is it about sandstone that allows you to build these massive, imposing structures?
The stonemasons, the sculptors call it a freestone, and that's what's very special about this Sydney yellow block. It doesn't have any planes of differentiation, any lines, any colour, and they can carve it in any direction.
Architect Ron Powell was the manager of the state's Centenary Stonework program. He watched in horror as stocks of this rare stone dwindled away to nothing.
Why is it called Yellowstone? It's not yellow when you dig it up.
No, it's a pale grey when it comes out of the ground after more than 200 million years being locked up, came from Gondwana land, and it has a small percentage of an iron oxide called siderite, about 4%. And when that's exposed to the atmosphere for the first time for these hundreds of million years, it oxidises.
Turns yellow.
Not only gives it this wonderful colour, but it also gives it like a case hardening, we call it, makes it more durable.
Over the ages, humans have used sandstone to reach for and exceed our limitations. From the Luxor Temple in Egypt, built 3,500 years ago, to Cambodia's Angkor Wat Temple, the seventh wonder of the world with 10 million blocks, and modern marvels like France's Strasbourg Cathedral, for 2 centuries the tallest man-made structure on Earth. Architects say our sandstone icons will be similarly admired for centuries to come.
In the 1950s, we lost so many buildings in the city.
And why was that? That modern
Commerce.
rush of building?
Commerce.
Yeah.
We wanted to put up multi-storey towers.
Some escaped the boom. Darlinghurst Jail was repurposed to become the National Art School. Here, the blocks bear the hand carvings of the convict labourers 200 years ago. The grounds said to be haunted by the 76 souls hanged here, including in the women's jail, the last woman hanged in Australia, Louisa Collins, in 1889. Many inmates doubtless first appeared down the road at the Darlinghurst Courthouse, another monument at risk of ruin. As supplies of sandstone were exhausted amid fears we wouldn't find any more to dig up.
And it was lying beneath our feet the whole time. This will be an apartment high-rise, but first they're harvesting 10,000 tonnes of this yellow sandstone. That's 4,000 cubic metres, 1,500 of these giant yellow blocks. That will replenish the heritage stonework supply for another 10 years, and blocks taken from here are already being added to buildings around Sydney.
Sydney Hospital is currently being restored as fast as the stone can be cut, carved and shaped. Soon, 2 of Sydney's most recognisable features will get a new lease on life. The Queen Victoria Building, built in 1898 at almost 200 metres in length, an enduring landmark and destination for locals and tourists alike. Then, across the road, Sydney Town Hall, built in 1869. Along with the neighbouring St Andrew's Church, this precinct houses several other heritage-listed sandstone buildings. While many ancient trades have slipped quietly into obsolescence, stonemasonry is guaranteed an enduring role into the future, restoring our past.
I've always wanted to be a stonemason and be involved in construction.
At the government's Heritage Stoneworks, apprentices like John Capellan are learning from senior stonemasons like Ian Goulding as they work on stone, cut with massive bandsaws, then hand-carved and shaped before their workmanship is sent out to delight this and many more generations to come. If the work is more than 2 millimetres out, they cast the entire stone aside and start again.
We can walk around the streets of Sydney as we get older, and I certainly for one can show my son, he's 4 years old. I can point at specific parts of the buildings in Sydney and say, well, your dad did that. And he'll be able to carry that on, and John will be able to show his son. And
famous American architect Frank Gehry said, architecture should speak of its place and time, but yearn for timelessness, a design achieved by some of our enduring sandstone structures.
If we care for it now, it'll be there for future generations, and that's our task with the program.
As Senior Heritage Architect, Joyce Singh has to balance the ever-short supply with the constant need for the right type of stone to match the heritage buildings and monuments.
Talking to geologists, where we believe that we're sitting on a whole lot of sandstone, whether it's yellow block or whether it's the durability that we need.
The University of Sydney is the oldest of Australia's world-famous sandstone universities, boasting some of the form's most ornate, beautiful and freely accessible architecture.
Now, these buildings should be there in perpetuity because they are gorgeous. They are absolutely beautiful buildings and they're an integral part of our history.
Heritage Minister Victor Dominello says while this find has staved off disaster, we'll need to keep harvesting every pocket we uncover. Developments planned for the Sydney fish markets and the Rozelle rail yards may cover huge, even bigger deposits.
It's critical that we maintain these buildings, again, not just for the purposes of the beauty of the buildings, but for our students coming through and our tourists. It is a critical part of our economy.
Under this 80 hectares lies more huge pockets of this precious stone. The redeveloped Barangaroo site yielded 10,000 blocks from its 100 acres.
The Bays precinct is 10 times the size, and for the next 30 years we've got an opportunity to not only extract the stone, reuse it in the area, replenish the Heritage Stone program, but also build on the young guys that are interested in that trade.
The earliest plans to create a world-class city included monuments and buildings as inspiring today as they must have been for the early settlers. As every day, countless new sets of eyes look upon these stones for the first time.
As soon as I finish cutting a stone and wash it and send it out to get laid in the building, just a sense of pride.
A sense shared by millions, surely all grateful to John and the team dedicated to this timeless task. Brian Seymour, 7 News.